Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Sunday School Review. This week's Sunday School lesson is entitled Your God Reigns, and it's taken from Luke, the 11th chapter, verses 37 through 44. And now Luke, that is the book of Luke, is the third of the fourth Gospels. And Luke is the author. Luke was a physician and a traveling companion of Paul. And Luke also wrote the book that bears his name, as well as the Acts of the Apostle. Now, Luke is the only Gentile writer in the New Testament. And Luke's gospel includes some details that that some of the other gospels did not. Now, Luke's focus was showing that Jesus, he appealed to the outcasts, that is, publicans, sinners, and women, and non-Jews, as well as Jews also. But Luke showed that Jesus was concerned about everyone. And that brings us to our lesson today. And there are two outlines in our lesson. The first outline is misguided attitude, and that is verse 37 through 41 of this 11th chapter of Luke. And our second outline is verses 42 through 44, and is misdirected actions. Now, let's go to our first set of scriptures, our first outline here, starting at verse 37 of the 11th chapter of Luke. And it says, "And as he spake, a certain Pharisee besought him to dine with him, and he went in and he sat down to meat." Okay, now the first verse tells us that Jesus has accepted an invitation to dine with a certain Pharisee. Now, the Pharisees was always trying to trap Jesus in order to get him to violate some ritual that they were accustomed to in order to eventually put him to death. So Jesus accepted the invitation to dine with this Pharisee. Now, and Jesus accepted the invitation. Now, this case here was a setup. They were trying to set Jesus up to violate some ritual. Now, the Pharisees were very religious as it relates to rituals, keeping of the law. And okay, we read that first one. So Jesus accepted this invitation to dine with this Pharisee. Now, the second verse, verse 38. "And when the Pharisee saw it, he marveled that he had not first washed before dinner." Okay, now this ceremonial washing initially started with the priests. They were to wash, their hands, pour water in their hands and wash their hands before meal. And the Pharisees had a blanket that everybody should wash before eating. That was their tradition. That was a ritual that they practiced. And this Pharisee was watching Jesus. As I said, it was a setup to trap Jesus. They watched him. And 38 says, "And when the Pharisees saw it, he marveled that he had not first washed before dinner. So Jesus did not perform this ceremonial washing before he ate. The Pharisees noted that this, we got him. He did not observe this a tradition. And let's look at verse 38. Now, and Jesus knew the Pharisees' motives. So the Pharisees' motive for inviting Jesus to dinner was not sincere in the first place. And Jesus, he knew this. I mean, basically, Jesus always was looking for an opportunity to teach these misguided rituals, to teach. So, I mean, really, Jesus could have washed his hand because he said, well, I know the Pharisees are looking at me and they want to see if I'm going to wash because that's important to them. We're going to get to the lesson. That's important to them. But the heart is the most important thing. But he wanted to correct these Pharisees' misguided attitude. They were thinking washing of hands is really the most important thing. Jesus is going to show, no, that's not the most important thing. Let's look at verse 39. As I said, Jesus knew their motives. And their motives wasn't pure, and Jesus picked up on them. And 39, it said, and the Lord said unto him, now do ye Pharisees, this is Jesus speaking. Now do ye Pharisees make clean the outside of the cup and platter, but your inward heart is full of raven and wickedness. So what Jesus is talking about here is the outside, okay, versus the heart. Okay, and the Pharisees look, well, we want to make the outside clean. We want to look good on the outside. We don't care how we look on the inside. And Jesus is getting them to see, okay, you make clean on the outside where people will see this. Okay, you make the outside look good. This is where 39 said, you make the outside of the cup and platter clean. Outside looks good. But your inward part is full of raven and wickedness. In other words, the heart is dirty. That's basically what he said. The outside is clean, but the heart, the inside is not clean. How is that acceptable? Now, okay, and verse 40, he said, he called them fools. He said, ye fools, did not he that make that which is without make that which is within also? So in essence, what he's saying is, okay, it's good that you got the outside clean, but what about the inside? Does it really matter what's on the inside? And Jesus is going to say, absolutely it matters. All you are concerned about is outward showing, appearance, appearing to be religious, appearing to be spiritual. You don't want to just appear to be spiritual. You want to be spiritual. In order to be spiritual, it comes from the heart, not the outside. It comes from the heart. And this is the lesson that Jesus is presenting here. Keeping the outside clean is okay. That's good. But why neglect the inside? Because the inside, one scripture say, is that the heart is where flows the issues of life. That is the most important. However, yes, the outside should be clean also. But more importantly, the inside should be clean. Don't do one and not the other. Okay, let's go to 41. but rather, now he's going to talk about that misguided attitude. And 41 said, but rather gives alms of such things as ye have, and behold, okay, all things are clean unto you. Let's do 42. This is the first woe. But woe unto you, Pharisees, for ye tithe mint and rue and all manner of herbs, and listen to this, and pass over judgment and the love of God. These ought ye to have done, and not leave the other undone. In other words, Jesus is saying, as it relates to tithing, you actually overdo that. You do that well, but it says, and pass over. But what about judgment and the love of God? You forsake that. So that's not okay. It's okay that you tithe. And as a matter of fact, you actually overperform in that category. But in the category of judgment and love, you underperform. And that's not okay. Okay? You say, well, you don't help others. You don't have a justice and love for God and others. Okay, you stingy. But, oh, I tithe. I overperform in that category. It's just like if you take a test, an essay question, when the professor gives an essay question, he has certain points in that question that he needs you to address. And if it's a 10-point question, if there are 10 issues he wants you to address, in order to get a 10, you need to address all 10 issues. If you say, well, I nailed 5 of the issues, so I wrote more on the 5 issues, but what about the other issues? You missed them. So I can't give you a pass on this question because you did not address all 10 issues. You only addressed half of the issues. And this is what they're doing. We nailed the part about the tithes. Oh, we nailed that. But the part about judgment and love, we didn't even address that. We failed on that. So how are you expecting to get a pass on that question? You can't. And this is what Jesus is saying. Sure, you ought to have done right by the tithes, which you did, and you actually overperformed because you gave a tithe of mint and rue, okay, and all manner of herbs. You did good there. And you passed over, you missed judgment and the love of God. These all ye have done. You should have tithed, right? Which you did. And you should have performed in the judgment and love category, which you did not. Therefore, you do not get a pass. Okay, so your attitude is misguided. You thinking that the fact that you have the outside of the cup and the platter clean, that you are good. No, you're not good. You're not good when the inside is not clean. You are not good. That's a misguided attitude. And that's what I'm coming to correct, a misguided attitude. You should have done the outside and the inside because the outside is not clean. Therefore, that doesn't make you spiritual. They thinking that the fact that I got the outside clean, that makes me spiritual. No, it does not. It does not. Okay, that's the issue there. They have a misguided attitude in their first outline. Now, let's go to our second outline. It is misdirected actions. And that starts at verse 42, and we actually read that already, but let's do the 43. This is the second woe. Woe unto you, Pharisees, for ye love the uppermost seat in the synagogue and the greetings in the marketplace. Okay, yeah, you love to be in the high seat, but that does not make you spiritual. That does not make you spiritual. This is the Jesus' critical analysis there. That doesn't make you spiritual just because you want to be seen. You want to be seen in the high places. You have a wrong attitude. Your attitude is all wrong. Okay? That doesn't make you spiritual. It's the wrong attitude. Okay, let's do 44. The next one. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye are as graves which appear not, and the men that walk over it then are not aware of them. Now, what Jesus is saying that you have these rituals, these ceremonial actions that you are requiring people to do, and by doing that, you actually are contaminating the whole. You are actually contaminating the process. It's just like if you make some Kool-Aid, you got all good ingredients in the Kool-Aid, but you put some contaminant into the Kool-Aid. Now you didn't contaminate the whole batch. The whole batch is contaminated, okay? And this is what they were doing with their certain rituals. As I said earlier, that the ceremonial washing initially was required of the priests. Before they eat, they would go through the ceremonial washing. But the Pharisees were so strict that everybody should go through this ceremonial washing before they eat, okay? Now, for health reasons, it's okay to wash and things like that, but that don't make you spiritual. I mean, if you say, is it good to eat with unwashed hands? You say, no, you want to wash your hands. You don't want to eat with dirty hands because you can contaminate the food and make you sick. That just makes sense. But the ceremonial washing, Jesus was getting them to see that these spiritual things, these ceremonial things, they okay in its place. But the more important thing is keeping the heart clean. And that's what they were banking on. Oh, I give tithes, which is good. That's what the law required. That's good. I'm washing from a sanitary standpoint. That's good. But I want you to understand, but from a religious standpoint, it's really more important to keep the heart clean. It's important to keep the outside clean as well, but it's really more important for the heart to be clean. And that's where the Pharisees were misguided. Their focus was on the outside at the exclusion of the inside. And this is what Jesus was trying to get them to say. Don't focus on the outside exclusively. Focus on the outside, but remember the inside is important, and actually more important. And that's why their attitude and their actions were misguided. The washing of the hand don't make you spiritual. The keeping of the law, okay, won't bring salvation. Okay, it's a heart thing. It's a heart issue. And you want to live a clean life. You don't want to take anything in your body. You don't want to take contaminants in your body. But more importantly, it's the spiritual life that you want to make sure that is on par. And this is the thing that Jesus was trying to get across to him. As I said initially, it was the Pharisees that were trying to catch him, Jesus, in a trap. And as I said earlier, Jesus knew. This didn't slip up on Jesus. Jesus knew that they probably gonna be looking at me and make sure that I observe all their ceremonial practices. And I know the most important thing is the heart. And they're gonna be looking at, I know that heart. I can see their heart. I know their heart is all dirty. Oh, the outside is good. The outside is good. Yeah, he washed. We can't get him on that one. But soon as he didn't wash, oh, we got him now. We got him now. And that was an opportunity for Jesus to teach upon the importance of keeping the inside clean. Oh, they had it down pat for the outside. They had that down pat. And they had the ties down pat, but their heart was far from it. And that's the thing that Jesus was trying to correct or bring to their attention in this particular lesson. And that's our lesson for today is your God reigns. And the most important takeaway is that, yes, these other things you should have done, but you left the most important part undone. That is, as it said in verse 42, judgment and the love of God. You omitted that. That you should have done, as well as the washing and all the other things. And that's our lesson today. We'd like to thank you for watching. We ask you to join us next week for another edition of the Sunday School Review. Thank you.